Today's episode is brought to you by Naked Nutrition. Naked Nutrition provides you with pure protein powders and supplements to help you meet your nutrition and fitness goals. Naked Nutrition is completely transparent about their ingredients. That way you know exactly what's going into your body. No additives means your body gets more of what it needs, and I suggest checking out the chocolate Naked Whey protein powder. Right now you can get 10% off your first purchase at nakednutrition.com by using the code POD. That's 10% off using the code POD for first-time customers. Take your nutrition to the next level with Naked Nutrition. Welcome to the Bro Country Podcast. My name is Joey, and I am joined by...
Hey man, it's Chris over here. What's going on over there, Joey?
Hey man, not much. Just trying to get through with all this pandemic stuff and our concert next week getting rescheduled. What about yourself?
Oh no, man. Well, it's been a good Friday evening. Just kind of settling in, ready to talk some country music. It's a late night for us here, bud.
It is a late night. I was having some technical difficulties with my internet, so we got started a little bit late, and on top of that, I was doing some Christmas shopping earlier, so...
Nothing can stop us, though.
Spectrum will not hold us back, that's for sure.
That's right. That is right.
But we've got a fun one for you guys tonight. We're going to do an album roundup. We're going to cover Lee Brice's latest album, Garth Brooks' latest album, and Stapleton's latest album. We're not going to do a huge deep dive into them. We're just going to kind of give our overall thoughts on the albums and just list a few of our favorite songs from each one. But
yeah, it's going to be fun, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely love talking about new albums out of Nashville, and whether we love them or hate them, it's always a good time. So
that's right.
But first, we must kick the episode off with our News Out of Nashville segment. There really wasn't a whole lot going on this week. I mean, the Billboard end-of-year numbers came out, and the Spotify end-of-year numbers came out, so that was pretty cool. But
yeah, it is cool.
Before we get into that, did you get a chance to catch the CMA Christmas episode?
Yeah, I watched it through, and then I've rewatched some of the clips a few times. I always seem to catch it every year. They always do a pretty good job with it, I think.
Yeah, it was funny because Thomas Rhett posted some of the bloopers on his Instagram. Did you catch any of those?
I did not. I did not get to see that.
It was funny because in the opening scene, you see where him and his wife were walking into the house, which was obviously like a set, but and he handed her like the presents or whatever.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you saw that part, but
no, I didn't see it.
Okay, yeah, they acted like they were having like friends over to exchange gifts or something cheesy, and the bloopers, he was like handing her the boxes and she just kept dropping them or something. It was pretty goofy, but you have to check that out.
Yeah, what'd you think of some of the performances?
I thought it was good. I liked Kelsey Ballerini's performance. That was really good. Florida Georgia Line, the song is really goofy, but it was fun this year.
It is goofy, but it fits them well.
Yeah, definitely a Florida Georgia Line song for sure. But I will say I actually enjoy it. It's a fun, goofy song. If you guys haven't heard that.
Speaking of FGL, we got some news about them today.
Yeah, they're dropping a new album February 12th, right?
Yeah, that's what is it called? Life Rolls On. They put out an EP earlier this summer. And then they've put out a couple singles, and they've just been released. They had a new song with Chase Rice drop today. They had a song with Russell Dickerson come out a couple weeks ago. So like, they are just cranking music out. It's going to be interesting to see what's on the new album.
Yeah, they're definitely cranking out some stuff. So, guilty pleasure, Florida Georgia Line. I don't love them. I don't hate them.
That's right. I was actually listening. I think after I saw on Twitter that the new album was coming out, I flipped through a couple of their songs tonight, and you're right. It's definitely a guilty pleasure. There are some good songs way back when, and there's some bad stuff, but there are some really good songs.
Definitely some bad ones, but definitely some good bangers too. So
absolutely, man.
A song that dropped. I think it was today actually. Randall King did a cover of "Run Run Rudolph." Did you listen to that?
I did. It was good. It's a good one.
Kind of reminiscent of the Luke Bryan's version.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
Run Rudolph is that's a good upbeat Christmas song that a lot of country people have covered over the years. It's a strong one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think Luke's probably takes the cake for my favorite version of that one.
I agree with you 100%. I thought Randall did a good job, but Luke Bryan's is probably definitely my favorite version of it. So But
Absolutely.
yeah, what'd the charts look like this past week, man?
Yeah, so on radio, the number one song this past week was "One Beer" by Hardy, Lauren Elena, and Devin Dawson. It's Hardy's first number one, and I think it's Lauren's third number one. And Gabby is just dominating on the Hot Country chart. She's been number one for like 20 weeks or something crazy. I mean,
Wow.
The version that's out now has got Charlie Puth on it, and they're playing it on a lot of pop stations. So it's just killing. I mean, I think it was number 5 on the Hot 100 this week. It's just dominating. And Luke is number 1 on the album chart for I think the 35th week for this album for the newer album. I mean, you lose track. You lose track because he's been number 1 so many weeks. But it's crazy.
It's hard to keep up with his stats.
Crazy. It is. And we're getting ready to jump into the Spotify and year-end stats, and it's crazy to keep up with.
Yeah. One thing before we get into the big Billboard and Spotify and the year stuff. So another thing that people are kind of upset about is this recent merch drop from Kane Brown.
Yeah, man.
You told me about that earlier today, and I almost thought you were kidding. And I went to the website and I was like, oh my God, is this for charity or something? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't. Maybe there's more to the story. I mean, kind of tell us what you're talking about there, Joey.
Yeah, so I don't want to talk too much crap because I don't really know the whole backstory on the merch line or the reason behind it or the quality really. But Kane Brown recently dropped a clothing line, merch line, and it simply just says family on the hoodies, the t-shirts, the trucker hats. It just says family. And the trucker hats are going for $75. The t-shirts are $85. And the hoodies are going for $175. And I'm telling you, it's just a plain black hoodie with like white block font that says family.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. Again, I don't know if this was for charity or if I don't know what it was for, but that is just crazy, especially when you got guys like Luke Combs that are charging like what $25 a t-shirt. Or
I mean his Twitter and his Facebook page today, since it came out today, it's just like his Facebook page is just thousands of comments about this, just thousands and thousands of comments. And I will say on his defense, I went and looked at his regular merchandise, and it's really reasonable. So. I don't know I really don't know the story behind this. I'm sure we'll figure it out. I'm sure that his team is probably freaking out right now because of the backlash online. But there's got to be more to this story.
That's what I was thinking because I kind of went into it with a negative mindset, like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. And then I'm like, there's got to be something to this because, like you, I found his regular merch line. I'm like, oh, that's not bad. What's going on with this? Is this like a special collab that he did or what? So
yeah.
Let's not cancel
Kane
Brown just yet.
$175 for a hoodie. That's rough.
That's like Yeezy prices, right?
That's right.
Call Kanye.
That's funny, man.
But yeah, so I was like, what the hell is up with this? But anyway, I had to bring that up because I thought that was an interesting fact. Again, don't go cancel culture Kane Brown over his $175 hoodies. If anything, do it over his pop music. But right. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. But
oh my gosh.
Anyways, Chris, you've got some Billboard end of the year numbers for us. Why don't you go through that?
Yeah. So the Billboard actually runs from December to December. So at the end of November, the year end tallies get totaled up, and the charts came out a couple of days ago. The number 1 country artist is Luke for the second straight year. I looked through, and I think the last time that somebody was the number 1 country artist back-to-back years was Taylor Swift in 2010 and 2011. So it's been almost a decade since somebody went back-to-back. Luke's got the number 1 album in America for the year, and he's got the number 2 album. He had the number 1 album in 2018 and 2019, so Luke has had the number 1 country album for 3 straight years, which no one's done that since Garth.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's really impressive. The number 1 song at radio was "Chasing You" by Morgan, and he had the number 1 song last year at radio with "Whiskey Glasses." So he's really tearing radio up right now.
On Luke's heels.
That's right. Yeah, and like we've said, next year is going to be Morgan's year. So Luke's going to have to up the game to stay up there with Morgan next year, I think.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Let's see here, and Well, and Luke's album was the number 10 album all genre for the year, up there with, like Taylor Swift and The Weeknd and Harry Styles and Post Malone and just like the biggest pop stars in the world. And he was the number 13 artist on Billboard, which takes in streaming, sales, albums. Country, for the last couple of years, country artists have not been nearly that high because traditionally country does not get the streams that R&B and hip hop and pop gets. But Luke and Morgan and Kane and Dan and Shay, they've definitely upped the game the last couple of years. But I mean, Luke is just, these last 3 years, Luke literally went from somebody that was playing in bars to almost overnight being the biggest star in country music. It's just, I know we talk about it all the time, but it's totally insane to have watched what's happened with him the last couple of years. Yeah. And these numbers, prove that.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And even artists like you mentioned, Dan and Shay, Kane Brown, and they do a lot of like cross collabs with pop artists too, and I think that really helps them get those streams up because, like you mentioned, country artists usually don't see the type of streams that these guys are seeing, and it just opens up their music to such a broad audience with the country music community, the pop community, and those in between,
Yeah, absolutely. And even somebody like Morgan, he really took off when Heartless came out, back 6 months, 8 months ago, which was a pop collaboration. It's smart because it gets you on playlists on Spotify and Apple that are not necessarily country, so you're gonna reach people that normally wouldn't listen to your music. But Luke literally has 0 collaborations outside of country. Eric Church and Brooks and Dunn are pretty much the only collaborations that Luke has.
Yeah, and what's crazy, man, is in the Bootleggers Facebook group, Luke Combs Fan Club. For those of you that don't know, they made a thread in there for everyone to screenshot their Spotify end of year results or whatever.
Yeah.
And I saw so many people posting screenshots of their top songs for the year and their top artists. And so many people had like all hip hop and like rap artists and then Luke in their list.
Yeah.
It was not uncommon to see that. And I was like, that's so cool that his music just reaches such a diverse group of people. And like even like with the same thing with songs, you'd see like pop, rock, hip hop songs, and you'd see a Luke Combs song in their top 5.
Yep.
And I'm like, that's so cool to see that. But
absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of Spotify, what did Luke? He posted that he had 1.2 billion streams last year. Is that what he posted?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely freaking insane.
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy, man.
Morgan had quite a few too, right?
Yeah, I think Morgan was almost 900 million. So he was second out of the country artists for streams. So next year's going to be, I think, his year for streams also.
Oh yeah, especially with that double album that's about to drop.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild, man. Speaking of Spotify, what were your top artists and songs?
My top artists, in order, number 1, of course, Luke Combs. This list probably won't come as a surprise to those of you that listen to the show often, but number 1 was Luke Combs, 2, Morgan Wallen, 3, Eric Church, 4, Luke Bryan, and 5 was Drew Parker. What were your top 5 artists?
My top 5 artists were Luke Combs. Number 2 was Amanda Shires, just because I listened to Without You so many times. So you can kind of take her out because that was the only song probably of hers that I listened to. So Morgan was second for me, just like you. Eric Church was next for me, and then Drew Parker were my top 5.
Are you kidding me?
So we essentially had the same top 5.
Which makes sense because, again, for those of you that listen to the show, we have very similar tastes, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think Spotify tells me that I listened to Luke 11,000 minutes last year or something, just ridiculous. I'm ashamed of it.
Almost triple the amount I had. I had like 4,700 or 4,600 something minutes.
I just get to listen to music at work, Joey. I'm lucky. I'm lucky. I get to listen to music all day long.
I wish, man. That would be nice.
I know.
I might have had you beat then if I could do that.
That's right.
I don't know. Wasn't there someone with like 190,000 minutes or something?
Yeah,
what was
that? There's all kinds of people on Bootleggers from Australia. So Luke's gone over there and done many tours almost every year. And like Britain and Ireland. So I mean, he's really built up an international fan base. And there were a couple of people from Australia that had literally like 400 or 500 hours of listening to Luke.
Wow.
So that's pretty impressive.
That is awesome. And
It is.
speaking of Australia, I do want to give a shout out to our international listeners because I know we've got some listeners in Canada, the UK, Germany, Ireland, Australia, Spain, Mexico. We've had listeners in Russia, Switzerland, Sweden. If we did not mention your country, I'm so sorry, but thank you guys so much for listening in. We appreciate that.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, that came back with our end of year numbers too. I thought that was pretty cool. How many countries we reached and everything, so that was sweet.
Yeah, country music is definitely not just southern America right now. I mean, it's definitely reaching all over the world.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And but to get back to our Spotify end of lists individually, what were your top 5 songs for the year?
My top 5 songs were "Forever After All," which is not surprising considering how many times I listened to it in that one week, and "Without You," and
Nice.
"Does to Me," and "While You're Gone" by Drew,
Nice.
and "Knockin' Boots" by Luke Bryan.
There you go. Our songs are a little bit different, so that's cool.
What you got there, Joey?
My number 1 for the year was "More Than My Hometown" by Morgan Wallen. Number 2, big shout out to this up and coming independent artist, "Come On" by Dan Alley.
That's your guy.
Yeah, man. And number 3 was "Forever After All" by Luke Combs. I was surprised by this one, but my number 4 was "Whiskey Glasses" by Morgan Wallen. And number 5 was "This Bar" by Morgan Wallen. So 3 out of my 5 were Morgan songs.
There you go.
So, yeah, which is "Whiskey Glasses." I mean, I guess I do listen to that quite a bit, but I feel like I listened to it a heck of a lot more last year.
Yeah, you probably did, but it's
And
hard.
I was
It's hard to
shocked
tell
that-
because we were before the pandemic hit. I mean, last December, January, and February feels like such a long time ago. But Lord knows what
man.
we were even listening to back then.
Yeah. Oh, man. We were probably prepping to go to our next concert.
That's right. That's right.
Which we did mention a little bit ago tonight that our the acoustic jam that we were scheduled to go to next Tuesday, December 8th, was canceled and not canceled. It was rescheduled for January 15th, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah, we're just going to keep our fingers crossed and hope that they keep that date. But it's hard. It's
hard
just hard to
telling.
get excited for anything right now.
Yeah, I was so stoked, and it was crazy because it was like a week and a half before the show, and it gets rescheduled. I was like, oh man. But we'll keep the faith, and hopefully it'll happen. If not, we'll have the tickets for when it does. So,
That's right.
but yeah, you ready to get into this album roundup, my man?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there anything else happened in Nashville. Oh, did you see? Do you remember the Wreckers with Michelle Branch?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they announced yesterday that they're getting back together. They had like 1 or 2 huge hits about 10 or 11 years ago, and then just broke up out of nowhere. And like a decade later, they announced yesterday that they're getting back together, and they've already recorded an album. So
I didn't even hear about that.
I was listening to.
I mean,
They had one #1 single, "Leave the Pieces."
Yeah.
It's an awesome song.
Yeah, that's good news. That's exciting,
Yeah,
especially the fact that they've got an album already ready to drop.
yeah. I mean, it's
Gosh, I haven't heard of it in a while.
I know they just I mean, they literally just had like 1 or 2 huge hits, and then just disappeared off the face of the earth for 10 years, and now they're that's the kind of strange stuff that 2020 is bringing us.
I was gonna say that's a typical move for nothing surprises me anymore. Nothing.
That's right.
Like
That is
nothing
right.
in life, I can't be shocked anymore. Like
That's right, man.
no surprise factor. I'm emotionless when it comes to that now. But,
Oh my gosh, that's funny, man. But yeah, I think that's about it out of Nashville this week.
Yeah, not a whole lot, except those end of year numbers were pretty cool to
Yep.
see, and it's always kind of like a reality check when you get your own numbers at the end of the year because you're like, oh man, I guess I did listen to More Than My Hometown on repeat pretty much all year or since it came out. I'm like, oh man, I need to diversify my music a little bit.
That's funny, man.
But anyway, let's get into this album roundup, man. Let's kick
Let's
it
do
off with Lee Brice's "Hey World." What do you think of the album?
Well, I remember probably 2 albums ago. I was looking through Spotify on Lee's Spotify, and 2 albums ago for him, I wore that thing out. I mean, I Drive Your Truck and I mean, Hard to Love, and I mean, he had a couple just all timers there, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and then he kind of disappeared for a little bit, not from country, but just kind of from my peripheral. And then earlier, probably last year when Rumor came out, I was like, man, I love that song. That is such a killer song. And then when the duet with Carly came out earlier this year, it was awesome. So it really plugged me back into him. So I was definitely excited for this album. I mean, I need to keep listening to it so I can kind of, just there's a lot of times you'll listen to a record and immediately 2 or 3 songs that you love. And then sometimes it might take you, a couple months to listen to something to really, dig into you and for you to love it. So I'm definitely going to keep listening to this one. But right offhand, I mean, I like it. It's a really solid album. I'm probably going to be a little boring on my favorite songs here, but I mean, the duet with Carly, I Hope You're Happy Now, is my favorite song on the record. It's probably one of my favorite country duets that's came out in the last 5 or 10 years. I've always loved just the classic male female country duet, so I'm always going to be a sucker for those. I really like the last track and the title track, Hey World. It's kind of I think it's going to be one of those songs that I look back on this year and it's kind of an anthem for 2020 because he's kind of saying like, hey world, leave me alone and just let me be okay for a while, which is exactly how I feel right now. So that one's definitely sticking out to me. What about you, Joey?
Yeah, I agree with you on pretty much everything you said, man. And I will have to say that I Hope You're Happy Now is my favorite song off the album as well. Go figure, right?
Yeah, it's
so good though.
Yeah, it's just an awesome song.
And it probably influences us that Luke Combs co-wrote it, but
absolutely.
I'm kidding, but no, it is pretty cool because that was really cool for Luke. I mean, as a writer, because you got to remember he's also a really talented writer, other than just a singer.
Yeah.
But
it's his first number one co-write that he didn't sing, so that'll be a good memory for him. And it's like you said, it's an awesome song.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one I liked off the album, and it's kind of whatever some people might think, but the song "More Beer."
Oh, I had that one written down kind of as an honorable mention.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's a good party hype song. I really like that. Yeah, and I liked "Country Knows" pretty well too.
That's a good one too. I think "More Beer," it's probably going to be the next single. I would think because a couple years ago he had a couple really like kind of slower, kind of really serious songs, and then he came out with "Drinking Class" and "Parking Lot Party," and he's got a couple hits that are kind of just fun party anthems. So I definitely see "More Beer" being a single in the next 6 months probably.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those type of songs too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll do well for him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's on a freaking killer roll right now. I mean, one of them girls is, I think it was like the second or third number one song at radio this past year. Jeez. And the new single "Memory I Don't Mess With," I had it written down as my third favorite, just because I like the kind of the meaning of just looking back on something in your past and just not wanting to lose that memory. I just just the thought of that is cool. So I had that written down as my third favorite.
Yeah, I had "Good Old Boys" as an honorable mention. I thought that was a fun song too.
That is a good one. I mean, it
was a solid project for Lee.
It's a really solid project.
Yeah, it really was, and he typically doesn't disappoint. Period. Anyway,
Yeah, absolutely.
Overall, this album, rating it out of like a 10, I'd probably give it like a strong 6.5.
Yep, that's where I had it, like 6.5, 7, something like that.
6.5. It's a good album. If you guys haven't checked it out, go stream it, go buy it. Hey World by Lee Brice. It's a great album.
He's kind of like Lee's kind of like half. He's kind of straddled the like bro country a little bit, and then like a little bit like nine. I mean, he's similar to Luke in that way of like being able to have the bro country-ish songs, but also the really kind of serious songs too. And I mean it's kept him around for a long time because his music is different. It's not all the same.
I agree with you.
Yep.
It's just very diverse in the fact that he can hit that mainstream audience as well as have those really serious songs too.
Yep, I agree, man.
But yeah, solid album overall. I liked it.
Yep, I agree.
But moving along,
we got next?
We got the big one, Chris Stapleton, Starting Over.
Man.
I know that's your guy.
Yeah,
So
this
what
is the.
were
I
your
mean,
thoughts?
this is
Tell
obviously
us.
the one that I've listened the most to in the last month of these albums. I mean, Stapleton's one of those. Stapleton's albums are one of those things that, like, if you would listen to Traveler and you would listen to From A Room Part 1, Part 2, and if you would listen to Starting Over, like, he doesn't he does not chase trends. He does not change his music based on what's going on in Nashville. Like, any of these albums could have came out at any time, probably in the 60s, 70s, all the way to today. They have a very kind of like timeless feel to them. This one's got probably 13 or 14 songs. I mean, I don't think there's a bad track on the album, but the ones that stand out to me, Maggie's song, the song about about their dog. Almost every time that we play it, Lindsay gets emotional and I almost cry because we got two dogs and one of them is a fuzzy little black dog, which is kind of what he describes in the song. Yeah. And so I think every dog lover is probably like wrecked by that song. So that's definitely one of my favorites. What about you, Joe?
One of my favorites off the album was When I'm With You. I thought that was a really, really good song.
Yeah, it's a really good one.
You know, and Stapleton's just, like you said, it's just time. His voice is very timeless. You could picture his music coming out decades ago and even today, and he is just so talented with his vocal range because he can do those really soft kind of love ballads, you know?
Yep.
And then he can really get those powerful vocal cords going on those heavy-hitting tracks that he's got, and he's just, I don't love Stapleton as much as you do. I don't love his music as much as you do, but I do respect him in the fact that he is very talented. And, I've listened to the album a couple times through, and he never disappoints, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you could easily hear Stapleton with Johnny Cash and George Jones. I mean, he would have fit right in with those guys. But he also fits in really well with today's music. What was it? The first or second episode that we did, we talked about our favorite artist. I think that was probably the first episode that we did, and I didn't include Stapleton because I don't really think of Stapleton as like a mainstream like radio artist. He's kind of just like his own thing. It's where I don't know. I just have this like he's just different from everybody else really that is recording. He's definitely in my top, 4 or 5 artists that are currently making music. The other two tracks that I had mentioned as my favorite tracks is "You Should Probably Leave." It's probably the most poppy song that he's recorded. He wrote it with a couple of the couple guys that write half the stuff out of Nashville, Ashley Gorley and it's probably gonna be the next radio single, I would think, just because it has that radio feel to it. It's actually the first solo Stapleton song that I ever heard. There was a little clip of it from years ago, and people have, like his hardcore fans have waited for a long time for it to come out. So I was super excited to hear it come out. But my favorite track from the album is the last track on the album, Nashville, Tennessee. It's my favorite track from the album.
I've got that in my top 3 also. I've got When I'm With You, obviously number 1, like I mentioned, Starting Over at number 2, and Nashville, Tennessee at number 3.
Yeah.
Honorable mention, Joy of My Life.
Oh, that is such a good song.
Beautiful song.
Yeah, any time that you can hear his wife singing background vocals with him, it's such a cool thing because they have a very unique relationship when it comes to music. I mean, she helps him write a lot, and she's his main backup vocalist, and she sings on all of his songs. So those love songs where he's singing to her, they're very definitely very authentic, I think.
Very much so, absolutely. Yeah. But Stapleton's album, rating wise, I'm gonna give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, it's for somebody like Stapleton that had such an impact with Traveler. I he's probably never going to be able to match that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be hard for him to ever have a 10 out of 10 again, because I mean he had the number one album of the 2010s, and he was superstar overnight, and it's still in the Traveler has been in the top 10 on the year-end Billboard charts for 5 straight years.
Gosh.
So it was number 7 this year. It's stuck around forever. It's a timeless album. So when you have that kind of success right out of the gate, it's hard to follow it up. But I think he's done about as well of a job as you can possibly do.
Yeah, I mean, on the iTunes country charts, it's sitting at number 5 right now.
What, Traveler is?
Yeah, Traveler.
Gosh,
still.
That's crazy, man. Yeah.
And you see it up in the top 10 often.
Yeah, and you just think to yourself,
iTunes
like,
even.
who in the world that would have wanted to buy Traveler has not already bought it by now, because it's been out so long. But that just shows people are still discovering music, years and years and years after it came out.
And I almost think that I would have given Starting Over a 10 out of 10 if it wasn't for Traveler just setting the bar so high.
Yeah, I agree, man.
Because that is a 10 out of 10 album, 100%,
Yeah,
and the numbers prove it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
but I'm there with you. I'm probably 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, yeah. And like you mentioned, it's so cool to see people still discovering Stapleton and still wanting to spend their money on that album and just seeing it up there. Impressive.
Yeah, it's just like, I think you texted me probably a month ago, and Chief from Eric was in the top 5. That's another album that, it's been, that was probably 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
And people are still discovering music like that. I mean, it's,
That
when an album is that good, people are always going to love it.
Yeah, absolutely. That made me happy seeing Chief back up there again.
That's right, man. That's right.
But yeah, you got anything else on Starting Over?
Just that Nashville, Tennessee is a song that is he talking? He's talking about falling in love with Nashville, Tennessee, and then falling out of love with it and kind of being done with it. But I've read articles where he says he's not talking about the mainstream country music industry. That it's vague. He's not gonna say exactly what he's talking about. He could be talking about a girl from Nashville, Tennessee. Like, it's very, you could interpret it in 5 or 6 different ways. But the first couple times I heard it, I was like, this dude
Shots fired.
He is tired of dealing with the corporate side of Nashville. But maybe that's not what it's about. But it's a beautiful song and a very honest song.
Yeah, and that's 100% the way I was going with my thought about it too. Was just that he loved Nashville and then fell out of love with just the industry and everything. So
yeah. And that wouldn't shock me. I mean,
no,
somebody like Stapleton, he does not play the games that most people play in Nashville.
Not at all. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's just trying to be low key about it, and just kind of be passive about it, so to speak. Because that's definitely the vibe you get when you listen to that song.
Yeah, I agree.
Especially with how traditional he is, and just like we've mentioned time and time again tonight, just how timeless his voice is, and not really fitting the mold of your everyday radio country star,
Yep, I agree.
Like your Dan and Shays and Kane Browns, Russell Dickersons, and no offense to them, but it's just a totally different sound and style with Stapleton.
Yeah, totally different, man.
Just true to your roots as it can get.
That's right.
But yeah, definitely a solid album. 8 out of 10. Go check it out.
Yep.
Moving on, the heaviest hitter in country music.
That's
Garth
right,
Brooks finally dropped "Fun," the album "Fun."
Oh man, I think I have more fun just like watching what Garth does than even like listening to the music. Like, it's just Garth has just turned into like kind of like a reality show.
He is like a character for sure.
He is a character, man. Oh my gosh, is he a character?
Oh man, it's crazy. And it was something that I thought was so funny was like you sent me a screenshot of the album cover or something. You're like, look at how much makeup they got on this guy.
I know,
because we had watched like one of his live streams on Facebook a day or so prior to that, and I did or maybe I sent it to you. I can't remember, but we were just talking like, man, they got him all dolled up, don't they?
They do. They do. Oh man, it's funny.
We always love new Garth though. It doesn't matter if it's the '90s or the 2020s. We love new Garth. So
yeah, absolutely, man. And there's good stuff on this album. I mean, it's
is.
not a perfect album, but there is some good stuff on it.
Yeah, a few of the tracks took me back to the '90s. It felt like, I don't know if you felt like that, but it just like the instrumentation, and obviously it's Garth Brooks, so maybe that just puts me in that mindset already.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, it was a pretty solid album for Garth, and I mean, we had heard a lot of those songs before the album actually dropped, because I mean, he's been teasing this thing for what, over 2 years now.
Yep.
But yeah, my favorite off of it though is "Stronger Than Me," and he played that at the CMAs a couple years ago.
Was that the one that he did kind of just acoustically and kind of just sang it right to Trisha, right?
Yeah, that was it for sure. And so yeah, when he played it that night, and I was like, this is a pretty good song. And then he released it, earlier than the album dropped. But yeah, it's probably my favorite off the album.
Yeah, I had it at number 2. It's a great song. Love it.
Yeah, what'd you have at number 1?
Number 1, I have "Where the Cross Don't Burn" with Charlie Pride.
Man, that is a solid song. I've got that at number 3. It's in my top 3.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's definitely
Definitely a Garth move.
Yeah, it's one of those Garth make you think songs that he's had throughout his career. I mean, and especially in 2020 with what our country's gone through. This song is talking about a little white boy and his love for a black man, and they were best friends, and just kind of that relationship between two people that did not care whether they were white or black.
Yes, very powerful words and a story of the little boy befriending the African American man, and just how they built that bond and friendship. And I think he said something along the lines of "my friend across the tracks," and basically just showing that they're separated by communities, but that can't hold them back from being friends and really caring about each other, and looking past what the color of someone's skin is to be a friend and care for somebody.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's very powerful.
And it was a typical Garth move, because he likes to, and it's sad that that's considered maybe pushing the boundaries in 2020. It's sad that you have to feel that way, but he likes to push the envelope when it comes to like political things and things that people may not agree on. And I think it's cool that he, wrote a song about that. And it's true, we shouldn't care about the color of each other's skin. And I think that song is very powerful.
Yeah, and for him to have Charlie Pride featured on it it's legendary.
Huge.
Yeah, it's legendary.
Yeah, and I actually had to listen to it like 2 or 3 times the first time I heard it, because the first time I heard it, I was like, oh man, what is he doing here?
Yeah.
And I listened to it again. I'm like, this is pretty good. I'm like, this is a good storytelling, good meaning behind the song,
Yeah, absolutely. What was the third song you had on there, Joe?
I had "I Can Be Me With You" in my top 3.
What'd you think of that one?
Yeah, just a fun one. Total Garth song, It was really, I hate to say it, but it was really hard for me to pick a solid top 3, just because I'll be honest, I didn't love this album by Garth. I don't know how you felt. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it.
I would agree. Those the first 2, which again, you and I have the same 2 songs. They're flip flopped, but we have the same 2 songs.
Oh, you had that one
top
too.
2 songs. Well, no, we had where the cross don't burn and stronger than me.
Stronger than me. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say
no. Actually, as my third song, I had the road I'm on.
That's a good one.
The lead. He wrote that one with Randall King. So I guess that kind of explains why Garth's been on the Randall King train for the last little bit.
Oh my gosh, man! Yeah, the opening act at the Garth Brooks drive-in tour.
It's funny, man. And there's nothing. I mean, it's just a fun one. There's nothing. It's not a song that'll probably stick with me for very long. To be honest with you, the only song that's going to stick with me for very long is "Where the Cross Don't Burn" with Charlie Pride. I mean,
yeah,
I'll remember that one. I don't think there's anything awful on this CD. It's just not going to stick with me.
Yeah. I think "I Can Be Me With You" might stick with me a little bit, just because It's basically how he's just singing his love to this woman and how he can be anything you want him to. Prince, and it's just a fun love song, and how he's singing he can be anything with her and he can be himself with her. So I don't know, kind of relatable in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. What I don't think we've talked about it. What did you think of the first few singles? I mean, what did you think of Dive Bar on All Day Long?
Dive Bar, I'll be honest, I threw it in as my honorable mention, and only because it's a fun one. It's real cheesy, it's really corny. There's not much. I don't think there was much thought and depth to it. But seeing Garth and Blake do a song together is always cool. Well, I guess it's probably the first time they've ever done it, but
Yeah, I mean they're both from Oklahoma. I think they've always bantered back and forth, and they have a pretty good relationship. So
yeah. So I thought that was
today's
kind of
stars,
iconic.
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it was fun, and I liked it. I'm not afraid to admit I like the song. I don't play it on repeat or anything, but it's a good
Yeah.
one. So
What would you what would you give the album overall there, Joey? What do you think?
man, this might be a little disrespectful because I do love Garth. I'm gonna give it. Let's go 6 out of 10.
Okay, I think you gave it a Garth bonus there.
Yeah, I think I did. If I was being truly, blatantly honest, I'm probably gonna go like a 4 out of 10.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down was four.
Yeah,
Four
probably
out
about
of
a
10.
4 out of 10. Now with my Garth fandom, I'm gonna keep my 6 out of 10.
That's right.
But if I was
That's right.
completely 100% unbiased, I'm gonna give it a 4. It was probably the worst of the three. Definitely the worst out of these three albums that we talked about today.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, we've talked about Garth once, in depth, and now we're talking about the new album. I'm sure that we're obviously going to delve more into Garth in the future. We definitely need to talk about just kind of this whole like comeback of Garth. I think that's probably a whole episode that we can talk about.
Yeah.
It's it's been unique to say the least.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from the beginning to Chris Gaines to retiring to coming back and just still being a phenom is just crazy.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
And
when you are as legendary as Garth and have done what Garth has done, it's hard to keep topping yourself, or it's hard to keep making stuff that people are going to love at that level. I mean,
Yeah.
so at this point in Garth's career and life, I mean, he's making music because he loves to make music. So I mean, that's
Yep.
I hope he keeps making it. I mean,
Yeah, me too. And there's definitely some hidden gems in these newer albums.
yeah, absolutely, man.
There's always something good with Garth, and you know, I hope we get his music as long as we can.
That's right.
So,
And I hope we get Garth live shows really soon.
I was gonna say Garth live shows. Now that's an experience.
Yeah,
If you don't love the new albums, just go to a Garth concert and you'll get all the oldies
that's
with
right,
a
man.
little sprinkle of the new stuff,
That's right.
which is crazy that he's still so high energy and crazy. At his shows. I mean,
That's
golly.
right.
But yeah, man. Any final thoughts on the Fun album?
No. I think we can leave it there.
Let's leave it there. Oh, one thing I did want to talk about. Did you see the? I know we've talked about on the show before the Cody Johnson Reba duet with Dear Rodeo. Did you see
Yeah.
the music video?
I saw like the teaser, like the 10 or 15-second teaser, but I have not seen the whole video.
Well, that just goes to show you that you ignore my Facebook notifications because I tagged you in it in a comment earlier. I'm kidding, but it was
I'm
pretty
gonna watch
good.
it as soon as we get up here.
Yeah, it was cool. I really liked it. You have to check it out. It's got like a bunch of rodeo footage and things like that, and they did a really good job with it.
And Cody released his studio version of Whoever's in New England this week too.
He
So
did.
it's like his homage to Reba this week.
Yeah, it's crazy how they've been connecting over the last like month or two or however long it's been going on, and
Yeah, it's
doing
cool, though.
doing these songs. It's really cool.
Absolutely, man.
Anytime you can see a legend like Reba do collabs with like a newer, quote unquote newer artist in Nashville, like Cody Johnson, it's awesome. Even
Yeah,
though we
I
know
agree,
Cody's
man.
been huge in the Texas scene for a long time, but just recently has become popular with the Nashville crowd.
Yep, I agree.
But yeah, before we wrap this up, we do want to let you guys know if you've listened this far, we appreciate it so much. Make sure you guys go check us out on social media. Search Facebook for Bro Country Podcast. Join our group, like our page. You'll be able to stay up to date with our content that we have coming in the future for you guys. But next week, we've got a special guest coming on. I know we talked about this on our social media. His name is Brandon Davis. He's an up-and-coming independent country artist. And we are super excited to have him on the show. So you guys definitely need to stay tuned for that.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't heard, he dropped his debut single, God Made Angels. So go stream that, go buy it, and tune in next week because we're going to have an awesome interview, and I think we're going to have a good time with that one.
I can't wait, man.
Any final words, my friend?
I think we're good.
All right, well, thank you guys again so much for tuning in. We truly appreciate that. And until next time, keep it country and take care of each other.